Retired Brigadier General with the U.S. Army Stephen Anderson and former Congresswoman Jane Harman of California. She served as ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee and most recently served as chair of the Commission on the National Defense Strategy.
Welcome to you both. I just want to pick up on that part, General, that I talked about Trump negotiating against himself because everybody else is not at the table. Tell me who's at the table. The Iranians aren't there. J.D. Vance is somewhere between Washington and Islamabad, but we don't know. He's got his two real estate guys on the ground, and we know why they're there, because there's a Trump hotel near you coming soon, right? So who's negotiating here? The president is obviously in a position where he is, in my view, weakened by his own erratic behavior.
Well, Michael, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, who's negotiating? The problem is that, of course, we essentially got rid of so many of the seasoned diplomats in the State Department and in the Department of Defense, all the Doge cuts and everything. We don't have anybody sitting at the table who really knows what they're doing. You got two real estate tycoons and J.D. Vance. I mean, that is not a recipe for success in any way. And there's absolutely no way that these talks are going to really achieve the kind of objectives I think we do. I think the only thing we can hope for is an extension of the ceasefire, an opening of the Strait of Hormuz by both sides, both the Iranians and the United States, and then some kind of a diplomatic effort that's going to take many, many months. I mean, remember, the last deal took 20 months to develop, 10 years of work prior to setting conditions to make that happen. So you got these sides are a mile apart. There's lots of issues to work. The best we can hope for, ceasefire and opening up the strait.
Let's talk about the mile apart that they are. Can we pull up the U.S. red lines and Iran's demands? These are the U.S. demands. No uranium enrichment, dismantle nuclear sites, accept a broader peace framework, halt funding to Hamas, Hezbollah, and Houthis, open Strait of Hormuz, no tolls. And then these are Iran's demands: right to enrich uranium, end to U.S.-Israeli attacks, ceasefire in Lebanon, compensation for war damages, lift sanctions, control of Strait of Hormuz. One, amazing how much of this just puts us back in the position of where we were when Witkoff and Kushner were negotiating this the first time around, except now we have to talk about reopening the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah, getting back to the status quo ante is going to take a lot of work. But there's another missing party at the table. Thought I'd mention it. I used to work there. It's called the United States Congress, which under the Constitution is supposed to declare war. And we may end up sometime, somewhere soon with boots on the ground, at least according to the president's rhetoric. I don't think so, but he hasn't taken that off the table. So I think in addition to TACO, there's CACO. Congress always chickens out. And that's where we are with that. Back to this, what could happen? There is some good news. I'm saying it. Maybe, just maybe, Lebanon and Israel will come to some kind of agreement, and maybe, just maybe, Hezbollah will be out of the Lebanese government, which would be a win for Lebanon and a win for Israel and a win for Trump and a win for the world. That would be good. I don't know that happens, but it is at least out there. I don't see a lot of other good news. And not having at the table, in addition to experienced negotiators, some capable intelligence function is really scary, because we don't know what the Iranians are doing. Rumors are they have new uranium sites. Who says? That could be disinformation. We really don't know. And I don't think, with all respect to everybody here, including me, I don't think we need to know. I think people in classified settings need to know before they set policy.
Because you brought up the Congress of it all, the other eventual hurdle...
Congress? What Congress?
The other eventual hurdle that President Trump's going to have to deal with when the time comes, if there is some longer-term deal that's negotiated, is also congressional approval of that deal, a law that was passed by Marco Rubio, head of the JCPOA, so that Congress had some authorization over the terms of that deal. I mean, do you see any sort of deal that's negotiated actually getting through?
Actually, no, not yet. The JCPOA was an agreement, not a treaty, because I don't think a treaty would have gone through. What Rubio did is he got a law passed, and he was the senior player in this law that said Congress could not, that the president could not withdraw from NATO without congressional approval. NATO is a treaty, so you need it anyway, but just to underscore the point, Rubio was a valued member of Congress. I think he's doing a reasonably good job in this role, although it's Tricky, but yeah, I don't see Congress approve. If Congress isn't even willing to get in the game here and exercise its authority under the War Powers Act, I can't imagine it ratifying a deal that would come out of this. Maybe putting some guardrails around this would be good, you think. But right now, if the president follows through on sending thousands of our soldiers, brave soldiers, into harm's way, and lots of them get killed, how do you explain as a member of Congress that a bunch of your constituents just came home in body bags in a war that you did not weigh in on in terms of your vote?
You know, John, I want to piggyback on the Congresswoman's point, because it does, when you're looking at the various players. You have the Congress. I love Kako, by the way. Cock-a-doodle-doo. Love that. So got Kako.
You're
we got
my
Taco.
loyal old
it
friend.
doesn't really
Let's go there.
It really just kind of rolls off. I love it, you know. So you have these big players that either don't know how to play or refuse to play. OK, and then you have, you know, folks like yourself and the Congresswoman who knows what should be happening right now, who should be at the table, very much to your point. People in secured locations having confidential conversations about how you're going to move pieces of the chessboard. I thought it was very interesting. The former Vice President of the United States weighed in on this as well, in sort of a broader sort of visual of where we are. Kamala Harris, noting at an event hosted by the Democratic Women's Caucus, talked about America's role in the world. And let's take a quick listen.
This president is the first president of the United States of either party since World War II to abandon America's responsibility to, one, a responsibility we assumed, imperfect though we are, to nurture and protect our alliances, our friendships, and to thumb his nose at them, and two, to not even pretend and in fact dismiss the importance of upholding international rules and norms.
Those two pieces, I think, really go to the heart of why this is going to be a difficult conversation for this administration to hold. Yeah. Because Donald Trump can't do either of those two things. And as long as he's incapable or unstable to do that, everyone around him at the table, even in confidential settings, will have a hard time deciding whether or not what they've just agreed upon is something they can actually execute on.
I mean, the national security apparatus has been completely broken down. I mean, essentially what we have, we wait for the president to post a tweet. And that's our national security policy.
How lame is that?
That is so wrong. I mean, but Kamala Harris is right on spot on target. I mean, it's not America first. It's America alone. That's what we have right now. We don't have any allies. We don't have Japan, Korea, Australia. We don't have NATO. We don't have the GCC even, in fact. They're mad at us because we put all these bases there to help protect them, and now they're taking fire from the Iranians because of the bases that are there. So we have completely disbanded the national security apparatus. We need to do something to restore diplomacy and common sense to our entire political discourse, and it's just not happening right now.